Hello again everyone. Well, it's really blowy out here today. Well, before we get into the video, I've got another sticker to put on the back door, and this time it's from Paul Glover of the Talbot Owners Club. It's his "How do" sticker. Let's get that on the van. How do? Well, it's unsurprising perhaps on a 30-year-old Talbot Citroen van to have a little bit of rust, but I've noticed recently that some has started to develop around the bonnet area and underneath the bonnet. It's been there all the time, and certainly the rust on the bonnet has been there all the time, so I'm going to try and clean that up. The first thing to do, I think, is to clean the rust from the bonnet gutters, and I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do that with my little Dremel type tool with some wire brushes on it. I've also noticed we've got these little rust spots starting to come through, and the paint here is really soft. I've got a feeling that it's had a respray at some point in time and not had the lacquer coat over it, because the paint is incredibly dull. It's probably a single coat paint and either not intended to have a lacquer and not very good paint, or supposed to have a lacquer and one hasn't been applied perhaps. So it's bits like this that are troubling me the most at the moment, so I'm going to clean those up and treat with some rust converter. Now you can also see some rust under the front lip of the bonnet there as well. Yeah, it's quite bad in places, so I think I'm going to try and do the bonnet at the same time. So the first thing I want to do is to take this sound insulation off so I can get to everything underneath the bonnet, and that's held on with these little plastic clips, which I think you can just pop off with a screwdriver. That's what I'm going to try anyway. Well, that has exposed a number of things. I think the worst is bits and pieces like this and this, which are a little bit the worse for wear. I'm going to put all these clips inside on the dashboard so I don't lose them, but this bit flew out from underneath the soundproofing as well, so no idea what that is. Answers on a postcard, please. Right chaps, you look after those clips for me, okay? Well, I reckon we might as well take the bonnet off and then we can deal with that separately in the garage. I'll work out what we need to do to get that off. Well, we obviously need to disconnect the washer jet. That's nice and easy. Looks like the hinges just have 2 bolts each, so we should be able to undo them. And I guess we'll just need to release the stay. Now I'm betting none of that's been off since 1990 when it was built, so the first thing I'm going to do is give it a good old spray with penetrating oil. I like to use the old Plus gas, you can't beat that really. And of course while that soaks in, there'll be time for a nice cup of tea. Pretty good tea. Yes, well worth taking a look at Paul's channel. He's doing some very similar stuff, or just finished doing some very similar stuff, doing some repainting and rust repairs on his van. I'll put a link to his channel on the end screen for you. Well, we'll have a look at this bonnet later. The first thing to do, I think, is to clear out all the gunge and the green grime and stuff from those bonnet gutters. I'll get a sponge and a bucket and we'll do that. Now, as usual, remember, these videos aren't intended as tutorials. I'm far from a bodywork expert, so if you know that I'm doing something wrong or you see something, then don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. I've got this rust converter in the garage, so I'll paint some of that on. It says you have to leave it 4 to 6 hours before overcoating it with anything, so I'll get that on that little rust patch now, I think. Well, I did want to get that little bit of rust in that gutter dealt with. I mean, obviously there's a lot more in that area, little tiny bits and pieces to deal with, and that rust on that wing really needs dealing with as well at some point. But for the moment, I'm going to concentrate on the bonnet, because that seems the panel that's in the worst condition really at the moment. So I'm going to strip the remaining fittings off of the bonnet. There's the washer jet here, and there's the two little rubber bumpers. So I'll get them off now. I think with this, you should just be able to push those two tags in. Yeah, it actually comes like that. So I'll put that safe in the van. Now, I think these rubber bumper bits should just pull out, but you can see this has suffered a little bit. That's corroded right through there. I wonder if I could put a little bit of a plate on there. Now, I've got a lot of mankiness going on here. I've got a lot of sort of, looks almost like hairy, gluey bits stuck everywhere. And this old glue stuff, which is horrendous, really. I don't really want to start attacking it with a wire wheel, but I have got a grip blasting gun. Now, I've tried the grip blasting gun before, and I haven't really got a big enough compressor to run it. But I think just dealing with those little local areas, which are going to be really time consuming to get rid of any other way, might be okay with it. So I'm going to connect it all up and put a bit of a dust sheet and stuff underneath the bonnet to catch all the bits of grit and stuff that come off it, and see if I think it's any good. We might give up with it and try something else, but I'm going to try it first because I've got it. It's obviously very important to wear a dust mask when you're doing this, and it's sort of working. It's not spectacularly effective, but probably just about worth doing. You can see it does, you know, if you hold it against, it does clean off that. It's not really touching areas like this much where there's some sort of hard adhesive on there, and the rusty areas, it's blowing off the loose paint to a degree. I can see probably the thing to do is to persist with it and get the worst of the obvious bits off, and then it's just going to have to be cleaning up by hand, I think, for the rest of it. Well, there you go. It has got a significant amount off, but there's still a lot more cleaning up to do. And I think next time I get on it, it's going to be cleaning up by hand. But it's time to pack away now, so I'm going to get the garage squared away, then protect over the engine on the van, because obviously there's no bonnet on the van now. Well, that's all for now. If you enjoyed it, press like, subscribe if you want to see some more, and ring the bell to be notified when we upload something new.